There is a deficiency affecting more than half of all American adults right now that most doctors never test for, most people never suspect, and almost nobody connects to their daily symptoms. Not iron, vitamin D, or B12. It's magnesium. This matters immensely after age 60 because your body relies on magnesium for over 300 biological processes. It regulates your heartbeat, muscle contractions, sleep-inducing neurotransmitters, blood sugar, blood pressure, and inflammation. When it runs low, nothing works efficiently. The resulting symptoms, 3 a.m. muscle cramps, shallow sleep, unexplained anxiety, stubborn fatigue, or a fluttering heart, are often blamed on aging. They aren't age. They are frequently a mineral deficiency that is entirely correctable. Here are 12 traditional mineral-rich plants that can restore your levels, including one common backyard plant most people spend money trying to kill. Number 1. Pumpkin seeds. Most people eat pumpkin seeds as a snack without any awareness of what they are actually consuming. 1 ounce of raw pumpkin seeds, a small handful, contains approximately 150 milligrams of magnesium. The recommended daily intake for adults over 60 is between 320 and 420 milligrams. That means a single small handful covers roughly a third of your daily requirement in something that takes 30 seconds to eat. The Aztec civilization understood pumpkin seeds as medicine long before they were a snack food. They consumed them specifically for what traditional Aztec physicians described as conditions of the urinary tract and prostate, applications that modern research has since found some scientific basis for. But the magnesium content alone is what makes them one of the most efficiently dosed sources of this mineral available in any grocery store today. What magnesium from pumpkin seeds does that supplements frequently cannot replicate is arrive packaged inside a whole food matrix, alongside zinc, iron, manganese, and plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, in a combination that the body processes more holistically than isolated mineral supplements. Researchers studying magnesium absorption have found that food-based sources generally produce better outcomes than supplemental forms for people with absorption issues, which become more common after 60, as digestive efficiency naturally declines. The seeds your children carve out of Halloween pumpkins and throw away contain one of the most concentrated sources of a mineral that over half the population is not getting enough of. That is either deeply ironic or deeply instructive, depending on how you look at it. Number 2. Dark leafy nettles. 8,000 years ago, humans in Bronze Age Denmark were weaving stinging nettle fiber into cloth. We know this because nettle fiber has been found in burial sites from that era. Before it was cloth, it was food. Before it was food, it was medicine. The relationship between humans and stinging nettle is one of the longest continuously documented plant relationships in history. Stinging nettle contains approximately 57 milligrams of magnesium per 100 grams when cooked, alongside more calcium than milk by weight, more iron than beef liver per gram, and a complete amino acid profile that most cultivated vegetables cannot match. Traditional European communities consumed nettle as a spring tonic every year without exception, timing their harvest to the first weeks of spring when the plant was young and tender and their bodies were most depleted after winter. The magnesium in nettle arrives alongside boron, a trace mineral that researchers have found plays a critical role in how efficiently the body actually uses the magnesium it receives. Boron deficiency impairs magnesium metabolism even when intake is adequate. Nettle provides both in the same plant simultaneously, which may explain why traditional communities who consumed it regularly showed mineral status outcomes that modern supplementation protocols frequently struggle to replicate. The sting is neutralized entirely by heat. 60 seconds of blanching produces a green that tastes like a more mineral-rich version of spinach and contains significantly more nutritional density per gram than almost any cultivated leafy green available in a grocery store. Number 3. Black beans. In 1519, Spanish soldiers arriving in Mexico encountered a civilization that had built cities larger than any in Europe at the time, without cattle, without wheat, and without the dietary foundations that European nutritionists of the era would have considered essential for physical strength and cognitive function. The Aztec diet was built on 3 plants: corn, squash, and black beans. Black beans contain approximately 120 milligrams of magnesium per cooked cup. one of the highest concentrations of any commonly available food. They also contain resistant starch, a type of fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, while simultaneously slowing glucose absorption, which is particularly relevant after 60, when blood sugar regulation becomes less efficient. The combination of magnesium and resistant starch in black beans addresses two of the most common challenges facing adults over 60 simultaneously. Magnesium deficiency is directly linked in research to poor sleep quality, muscle dysfunction, and elevated blood pressure. Disrupted blood sugar regulation is linked to energy crashes, cognitive fog, and increased inflammation. One food, two problems, one meal. The civilization that built Tenochtitlan on this combination was not nutritionally naive. They had simply arrived at an optimal solution through centuries of observation and survived on it for generations. Number 4. Swiss chard. Swiss chard was cultivated in the Mediterranean long before it carried its current name. Ancient Greek and Roman texts document it as a medicinal plant, used for digestive complaints, fever, and what classical physicians described as conditions of the blood. It was so commonly consumed across the ancient Mediterranean world that historians find it difficult to locate a period when it was not a staple of the regional diet. 1 cup of cooked Swiss chard contains approximately 150 milligrams of magnesium, comparable to pumpkin seeds in a much larger volume of food. It also contains significant potassium, which works in partnership with magnesium to regulate blood pressure and muscle function, and vitamin K, which plays a critical role in bone density maintenance that becomes increasingly important after 60. The magnesium-potassium partnership in Swiss chard is one that researchers studying cardiovascular health have found particularly significant. Both minerals are required for proper electrical conduction in the heart muscle. When either is deficient, the heart's rhythm regulation becomes less precise, contributing to the palpitations and irregular heartbeat sensations that many adults over 60 experience and find alarming. A study examining dietary mineral intake and cardiac function found that people consuming adequate magnesium and potassium from whole food sources showed better cardiac rhythm stability than those relying on supplementation alone. Swiss chard provides both in a single vegetable. Number 5. Almonds. In ancient Persia, almonds were pressed into oil, ground into paste, and consumed whole as medicine for everything from digestive complaints to skin conditions. Persian physicians documented them extensively. Arab traders carried them across the Silk Road, not primarily as food, but as a traded medicine with documented therapeutic value. The almond orchards of ancient Persia were not farms in the modern sense. They were medical supply chains. 1 ounce of almonds, approximately 23 nuts, contains about 76 milligrams of magnesium, alongside significant vitamin E, which functions as a fat-soluble antioxidant, protecting cell membranes from oxidative damage. After 60, oxidative damage accumulates at a rate that increasingly outpaces the body's repair mechanisms. Vitamin E from whole food sources, as opposed to supplements, delivers it packaged alongside the fats required for absorption. The specific combination of magnesium and vitamin E in almonds is relevant to one condition that affects an enormous number of adults over 60 and is almost never discussed in connection with mineral deficiency: poor sleep maintenance. Magnesium deficiency is directly linked to difficulty staying asleep, specifically the early morning waking that many older adults experience and cannot explain. The calming effect of adequate magnesium on the nervous system and muscle tissue is well documented in research. A small handful of almonds in the evening provides both the magnesium that supports sleep architecture and the vitamin E that reduces the oxidative stress that disrupts it. Number 6. Avocado. The avocado tree has been cultivated in Mexico and Central America for at least 10,000 years. Archaeological evidence places avocado consumption in human settlements predating any recorded civilization in the Americas. The Aztecs called it ahuacatl and consumed it as both food and medicine, specifically for skin health, digestion, and what their physicians described as conditions of weakness and poor recovery. 1 medium avocado contains approximately 58 milligrams of magnesium, alongside more potassium than a banana, a comparison that surprises most people who have been told for decades that bananas are the potassium food. Avocado contains roughly 975 milligrams of potassium per fruit, compared to approximately 422 in a medium banana. What makes avocado's magnesium particularly valuable is the fat content it arrives with. Magnesium from plant sources is absorbed more efficiently in the presence of fat, and avocado provides the specific type of monounsaturated fat that supports this absorption while simultaneously supporting cardiovascular health. Researchers studying dietary fat and mineral absorption have found that consuming magnesium-rich foods alongside healthy fats consistently produces better mineral status outcomes than consuming those same foods without fat. Avocado solves both sides of that equation in one fruit. For anyone over 60 managing blood pressure, the magnesium-potassium monounsaturated fat combination in a single avocado addresses 3 of the primary dietary factors in blood pressure regulation simultaneously. Number 7. Kelp and sea vegetables. Before industrial agriculture depleted the mineral content of farmland soil, humans living near coastlines had access to a food source with mineral concentrations that terrestrial plants cannot match, because the ocean has not been depleted. Sea vegetables, kelp, wakame, dulse, nori, grow in mineral-rich seawater and absorb the full spectrum of oceanic minerals directly through their cell walls. Kelp contains approximately 121 milligrams of magnesium per 100 grams, alongside iodine, which supports thyroid function that naturally declines with age, and fucoidan, a compound found only in sea vegetables that researchers have studied for its effects on immune function and inflammation. Japanese coastal populations who consumed sea vegetables daily as a dietary staple showed mineral status profiles that researchers studying longevity in those communities consistently found difficult to explain through terrestrial food intake alone. The ocean mineral content in daily sea vegetable consumption was identified as a significant contributing variable. For anyone over 60 living inland and eating exclusively from terrestrial agricultural sources, which is most Americans, sea vegetables represent access to a mineral profile that the modern food system otherwise provides no practical way to obtain. A small amount daily adds what the depleted soil cannot. Coastal indigenous communities around the world, from Japan to Norway to the Pacific Northwest, all incorporated sea vegetables as dietary staples, not because they had analyzed mineral content, but because they observed what happened to the people who ate them regularly versus those who did not. Number 8. Dandelion. This is the one I told you about at the beginning. The plant that more American homeowners spend money every spring trying to eliminate from their lawns is one of the most magnesium-dense edible greens available, and it is growing for free in your yard right now, without irrigation, without cultivation, without any effort on your part whatsoever. Dandelion leaves contain approximately 36 milligrams of magnesium per 100 grams, comparable to many cultivated greens, alongside more beta-carotene than carrots, more calcium than milk by weight, and inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds the beneficial gut bacteria responsible for producing calming neurotransmitters including serotonin. European settlers brought dandelion seeds to North America intentionally, on the Mayflower in fact, not accidentally. They understood that this plant was too valuable to leave behind. The bitter compounds in dandelion leaves, sesquiterpene lactones, activate digestive receptors throughout the gut that trigger bile production, enzyme secretion, and stomach acid release before food arrives. This preparation of the digestive system is called the cephalic phase response, and it is almost entirely absent in modern Americans because the food supply has been systematically engineered to remove bitterness, which sells less well than sweetness. The result is a digestive system that starts poorly and absorbs nutrients incompletely. Dandelion corrects this at the most fundamental level, preparing the gut to receive food properly rather than simply reacting to it after the fact. For anyone over 60 experiencing bloating, slow digestion, or the sense that food sits heavily, this is one of the most direct dietary interventions available, growing for free in most American lawns. Number 9. Spinach. Spinach has a reputation for iron that it mostly does not deserve. The iron in spinach is poorly absorbed due to high oxalate content that binds to it. But spinach's reputation for magnesium is entirely earned. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains approximately 157 milligrams of magnesium, one of the highest concentrations of any commonly eaten vegetable. Cooking is the key word. Raw spinach contains the same total magnesium, but the oxalates that block iron absorption also impair magnesium absorption to some degree. Light cooking reduces oxalate content significantly without meaningfully reducing the magnesium itself. Spinach cultivation was first documented in ancient Persia around 227 CE. Arab traders introduced it to Spain in the 11th century, where it became known as the Prince of Vegetables. Medieval European physicians used it specifically for digestive weakness and conditions of fatigue, applications that the magnesium content alone provides a clear biological explanation for. Magnesium's role in energy production at the cellular level is one of the least discussed and most significant aspects of this mineral. Every cell in the body produces energy through a process that requires magnesium at multiple steps. When magnesium is deficient, energy production becomes less efficient, not dramatically, not suddenly, but gradually and persistently, in a way that manifests as the low-grade fatigue that many adults over 60 accept as normal. Researchers studying cellular energy metabolism have consistently found magnesium deficiency as a contributing factor in unexplained fatigue in older adults. A cup of cooked spinach 3 to 4 times weekly addresses this at the source. Number 10. Cacao, raw dark chocolate. Raw cacao is not chocolate in the sense that most people understand the word. Before sugar, before milk solids, before the processing that turns cacao into the confection sold in grocery stores, raw cacao is one of the most magnesium-dense foods on Earth. 1 ounce of raw cacao powder contains approximately 64 milligrams of magnesium alongside theobromine, a mild stimulant compound that improves blood flow and mental alertness without the sharp peak and crash of caffeine. Mesoamerican civilizations, the Olmec, the Maya, the Aztec, consumed cacao as a medicinal drink for over 3,000 years before European contact. The Aztec Emperor Moctezuma reportedly consumed it daily in a form mixed with chili, honey, and vanilla. It was not a treat. It was medicine for the ruling class, reserved for warriors and royalty, precisely because its effects on energy, focus, and recovery were considered significant enough to be controlled as a strategic resource. The magnesium in raw cacao is accompanied by flavonols, plant compounds that researchers have studied extensively for their effects on blood vessel function and cognitive performance. A large clinical trial called the Cosmos Mind Study found that cocoa flavanol supplementation significantly improved memory and cognitive function in older adults over 3 years. The researchers noted the effects were strongest in participants with the lowest dietary quality at baseline, which describes a significant portion of the American population over 60. For anyone looking for a daily source of magnesium that also addresses cognitive aging, raw cacao is the most pleasant option on this entire list. Number 11. Figs, fresh and dried. Figs are among the oldest cultivated fruits in human history. Archaeological evidence from the Jordan Valley suggests fig cultivation predating wheat and barley agriculture by several thousand years, making the fig possibly the first plant humans deliberately cultivated rather than simply gathered. The Bible references figs more than almost any other plant. Ancient Greek athletes consumed them before competition. Roman soldiers carried dried figs on campaigns as a concentrated energy and mineral source that did not spoil. In virtually every traditional Mediterranean culture, figs were the constant, present in the diet across thousands of years without interruption, consumed fresh in summer and dried through winter. 3 dried figs contain approximately 50 milligrams of magnesium, alongside significant calcium, potassium, and prebiotic fiber. The drying process concentrates all of these minerals. A handful of dried figs delivers more magnesium per bite than most fresh fruits can approach. What makes figs particularly valuable for adults over 60 is the combination of magnesium and calcium in a single food. These 2 minerals work together in bone metabolism. Magnesium is required for the body to properly utilize calcium in bone building and maintenance. Most bone health conversations focus exclusively on calcium, while entirely overlooking that calcium supplementation, without adequate magnesium, produces suboptimal results. Traditional Mediterranean populations who maintained exceptional bone density into old age consumed both minerals together naturally through figs, greens, and legumes, rather than separating them into supplements. The food came pre-configured with the partnership the body requires. Number 12. Moringa. Moringa oleifera has been called the miracle tree in the regions where it grows natively, not as marketing language, but as a practical description of what communities with limited food security observed it doing across generations. In West Africa, India, and the Philippines, moringa leaves were given specifically to malnourished children and pregnant women because traditional healers had observed that it corrected deficiencies that other available foods could not address. The mineral profile is extraordinary. Moringa leaves contain approximately 147 milligrams of magnesium per 100 grams of dried powder, alongside complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids, more vitamin C than oranges by weight, more iron than spinach, and more calcium than dairy by weight. It is the most nutritionally complete plant documented in the peer-reviewed literature. Moringa contains a compound called isothiocyanate that activates NRF2, the master switch for the body's own antioxidant defense systems. NRF2 activation prompts the body to produce its own protective enzymes rather than relying on external antioxidant sources. After 60, NRF2 activity declines significantly, which is one of the reasons oxidative damage accumulates faster and recovery from illness or exertion takes longer. A 2014 study found moringa leaf powder reduced fasting blood sugar by 13.5% in participants with elevated readings over 3 months, an effect researchers attributed partly to the magnesium content and partly to the NRF2 activation, improving cellular metabolism overall. For anyone over 60 dealing with low energy, slow recovery, or blood sugar concerns, moringa addresses all three through separate but complementary mechanisms. The communities in West Africa, India, and the Philippines that kept this plant at the center of their nutrition for generations were not doing so because it tasted exceptional. They were doing so because they had watched what happened to people who had access to it versus those who did not. The observation held across enough generations to become cultural practice. The research simply confirmed what the practice already knew.